here in front of me called Our Skin that has been endorsed by NACI. And I'm going to read exactly what this book says. You guys might find it interesting. A long time ago, way before you were born, a group of white people made up an idea called race. They sorted people by skin color and said that white people were better, smarter, prettier, and they deserved more than everybody else. This would be taught if we socialize our pre-K system. This would be taught.
Do you disagree with that findings in the book?
1,000%. How about we teach Jesus loves me? How about this? In teaching Jesus loves the little children, the lyrics go, red and yellow, black and white, they're all precious in our sight. Now, which one would you think would be better? I'll ask everybody on the panel, which is better to teach? This, that is a story that was made up to teach our kids, 3-year-olds who have no idea what race is, now all of a sudden is being taught that white people said this as a truth. Someone point at me that this being a truth, that white people developed race, that white people developed that all of a sudden that was our word that we developed. By the way, I'm Cherokee, Native American. I think we have experienced a little bit of racism before in my life, Chairman.
Senator Mullen.
So I ask everybody on the panel, which one is better to teach? This or the Jesus Loves Me lyrics? Ma'am, I'll start down here. Just tell me which one. I don't have time for an explanation.
What I'll tell you, Senator Mullen, is that what children in these early years develop their identity. It's important that our classrooms are.
I'm just asking which one is better.
Let her answer the question, please.
My question is this.
She will answer it if she sees fit.
Which one is better?
It's important that children's identity and language and culture are recognized.
That's not answering my question.
And that's what creates strong executive function.
If you don't want to answer my question, that's fine. Let's move on down the panel. Which was exactly, that's exactly what it is.
Got it on tape.
Misspoke. So what I'm saying is which one is which? Which one is better to be taught, Mr. Chairman? Is it this or is it the Jesus?
Is your question directed to me or Ms. Woman?
Well, you keep interrupting me saying they're not answering the question.
And
I wish you'd really stay out of my questions.
It's his question. He gets to dictate it.
Which one?
Not dictated. Ask the question.
Which one?
Talking to Ms. Woman, right?
Yes.
As I stated, Jesus is always first.
Absolutely. I agree.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you're watching this video from. As you know, I'm your host and presenter Index Stories. Now, there's something that I want to talk about, and this is something that has been happening for the longest time, brothers and sisters. There's one thing that these white people fear. When I say white people, I'm not referring to all white people because that's a blank statement. Some white folks are so afraid of black people learning the history of black people. And when I say history of black people, I don't say that the history of black people began with slavery. No. The history of black people didn't begin with slavery, because the history of black people began at a point where we were seeing the birth of a civilization. The birth of a civilization that was taken away from black people. Now, understand one thing that is happening. White people are so afraid of black people learning how great they are. They don't want black people to learn about race and race relations because to them, that's a sensitive topic that should not be talked about. Because it hides the truth. It hides the fabrics that make the United States be what it is today, because without black people, the United States couldn't be what it is today. Now, oftentimes you've seen scenarios where Trump is trying to refer to black history as a miseducation or spreading propaganda. You've probably heard those statements, right? This is not for the first time you hearing when I'm saying that, let me make myself, sometimes when these people refer to black Americans or black history as propaganda, as spreading propaganda. But this is the truth behind the curtains. They don't want black people to learn about black history and the history of slavery. I've said history, black history, and the history of slavery of black people. Those are two different histories, right? Because black history contains black excellence, contains black civilization, contains black excellence. It contains black inventions, things that they took from black people. Now, another part that these people also face is the history of enslavement of black people. Why? Because they say that this is sensitive. And that's why in the beginning of the clip, you hear this senator saying that it is better for kids to learn about Jesus and not the history of the enslavement of black people. Goes ahead and says that he was also enslaved. Goes ahead and says that he's a Cherokee. It's crazy. It's crazy because he doesn't belong. We all know that he doesn't belong. He doesn't belong there. The Cherokee group belonged to a specific type of black people and not a white person. Maybe I stand to be corrected, but I honestly don't know. Brothers and sisters, I want us to watch this video. I'll be back. And then, I'll be sharing my 2 cents in regards to this. And for those who are watching me for the first time, I'm your host and presenter, Agent Stories, and I'm really, really grateful for the support that you all are giving me. Those who are liking, sharing, subscribing to my video, man, I'm really, really grateful for all the support that you're giving me. But until then, let's get into it. It's time for business. Let's get down into it.
I pissed off the black community. I definitely pissed off the black community, and it is what it is. I don't know what you want me to tell you. But apparently I'm uneducated. So let's go through why I said what I said in that video, because I stand 10 toes down on it. Back in the 1600s, black people, specifically Africans, were not just stolen. They were sold off by other Africans. At that time, slavery wasn't really a term or a thing. They had indentured servants. These servants had time limits of how long they were going to be working. So after these 3 years, you're free to go. And honestly, truthfully, a lot of these men and women chose to become indentured servants because it wasn't the forever thing, it wasn't the long thing, and they would be able to freely come into America. Not saying that it was right. I'm just saying some of these men and women did go by choice so they could leave their home country. Most of the people that were put into servitude, it was for a few reasons. It could have been they were captured and sold off, they could have committed a crime, or they were indebted to somebody. They owed someone something. Now, what I said in my video was that black people created slavery. They started slavery. What I didn't specify was that I clarified this in the comments immediately after uploading, but just not in the video specifically. But before this drama took place, I clarified it right when I put up the video. But I was talking about in the US, not the entire world, because that predates, 10,000 years. I was not getting into all that. So I was talking about here at home. That is because of Anthony Johnson, who back in the 1620s was a servant, not a slave, a servant. So eventually when he was done with his servitude, he was given his freedom. And this man accumulated so much money. He was making so much money that he ended up purchasing a bunch of land. Now he accumulated over 200 acres of land over that time, and he also accumulated about 15 to 16 slaves, 6 or 7 of them being African American and the rest being white. Or, I'm sorry, servants, not slaves. Now things went awry a few years later, around 1653, I think, one of those, where one of his servants, last name of Kaser or Kasser, left because he claimed that his servitude was up and expired, so he left to go work for a different owner. Anthony Johnson then brought it to court and sued that family to have Kasser be returned to him. After a couple of years through the Virginia court system, they actually went in Johnson's favor and brought Kasser back to Anthony Johnson, claiming him as a slave for life, thus creating slavery, legal slavery, not servitude, legal slavery here in America. It was because of Anthony Johnson, who was a black man. Every single background and origin on the planet has been oppressed or enslaved or servants at some point in time. The white race did not invent slavery, but they were the race that ended it. It wasn't even a race issue when it was first created. It was a class issue. As I say in many, many other videos, if I missed anything or forgot anything or didn't know something, feel free to comment it below. I don't care. I'm always open to conversation. I love talking about this kind of stuff. But for tens of thousands of black people to get up in my comments daily and call me uneducated or God knows what else, yet not one of them actually is doing the educating, how do you expect people to learn if you are unapproachable and mean?
Oh, okay. That was something. But you said you wanted to be educated, right? I mean, that's what you said. So come on in and hurry up because you didn't already miss too many classes as it is. Let's jump right in, shall we? And start with the fact that you didn't just miss a few details here. What you did was build an entire argument on half-truths and then acted confused when people reacted. And I took a look at your page because I was trying to understand the voice that you're speaking from. And it's clear to me that you try to present yourself as someone who tells hard truths, as someone who leans into uncomfortable conversations that other people might avoid. But what you said wasn't controversial, it wasn't bold, it was incorrect. And what really stood out to me is how you tried to frame it as confidence, opening with, I'm standing 10 toes down, which is ironic because your first instinct was to borrow language rooted in black culture, while speaking negatively about black commenters just to make your point feel more solid than it actually was. But I digress. Because the way you ended the video told a completely different story. You said, educate me. Hey, I love these conversations. Don't just get on here and be mean. But your words and your delivery are completely incongruent. Your tone is defensive, and there's a level of condescension in how you speak, followed by a pivot into victimhood the moment people respond. That's not standing 10 toes down. That's you realizing that the response wasn't what you expected, so you're trying to soften the impact. If you really loved these conversations, right? If you actually wanted to learn and teach others, you wouldn't speak in that level of arrogance to the very people whose ancestors were impacted by over 400 years of this brutal history. And those people, by the way, have every right to feel emotional about it. The real question is, why are you? So this isn't about people being mean. It's about you speaking boldly on something that you're not fully informed on, and then asking for softness the moment that you're corrected. Now let's get into your claims, because this is where things really start to fall apart, okay? You first say that you didn't want to get into the slavery that existed outside of America because it was too much and it went too far back. But then you brought it up multiple times, but only when it supported your point. So which is it? Is it too much to get into, or is it something that you're comfortable using when it helps your argument? Because you can't selectively pull from a broader history to support your point and then ignore that same history when it complicates it. You reached outside of America to say that Africans sold Africans and that slavery existed before it became racial. And I already know that your next move will say, well, that wasn't real slavery, it was indentured servitude. But if that's the case, then you can't use it to support your argument in the first place. Either it counts as part of the history or it doesn't. Because the moment you pull from that broader timeline, you also then have to acknowledge that systems of enslavement existed long before America, which effectively means that Black Americans could not have created it as you claim. The real truth is that no one race or group invented slavery or back then indentured servitude. It shows up independently across multiple civilizations thousands of years before America even existed. So you can't have it both ways. Either we stay within the context of American slavery or we include the full global history. But the moment you open that door, your entire argument collapses. So we'll focus on American slavery. Next, your entire argument hinges on the idea that Anthony Johnson, a Black man, won a court case in 1655, and somehow that means that Black people created slavery in America. Yes, he was a Black man who won a court case, but using that to claim Black people created slavery completely ignores the fact that the legal framework, the court systems, and the power structures making that ruling possible were already being built and controlled by white colonial authorities. That case didn't create the system. It operated within a system that was already taking shape. If anything, it honestly just shows how the colonies were already shifting toward lifetime servitude and how those courts were willing to enforce it. One case inside of a system does not equal authorship of the system. And what you completely fail to mention are cases like John Punch in 1640, 15 years before your Anthony Johnson example. He was a Black man sentenced to lifetime servitude while the white men with him only received extended contracts. That's one of the earliest legal distinctions between Black and white labor in the colonies. That's the foundation of racial slavery, not Anthony Johnson. You then go on to say that slavery wasn't about race, it was about class. And yes, early on there were systems that looked like that. But in America, it was intentionally transformed into something else. Laws were put into place to make Blackness synonymous with enslavement. And that didn't just happen because one Black man won a court case. This required legislation. It required court rulings, plural, policies that were written, enforced, and expanded over time. Make no mistake, this was a system that had to be codified, built piece by piece, decision by decision, until Blackness itself became the condition for lifelong, inheritable enslavement. That was not accidental, and it wasn't created in a single moment, but it was constructed here, in the colonies, by white power structures. You also brought up that all races were enslaved at one point, and yes, different groups experienced forms of enslavement throughout history, but the way you're using that point makes it seem like you're trying to equalize these experiences, and they're not the same, not even close. What was built in America wasn't just another version of what existed before. The scale, the permanence, and the racialization of it were fundamentally different. So collapsing all of that into everyone experienced slavery doesn't clarify anything. It actually just erases the horrific reality of what actually happened. And saying white people didn't invent slavery, but they ended it, while completely ignoring who built, expanded, and profited from this system becomes even more misleading when you actually look at what was created here. Because while forms of slavery existed before, the racial hereditary system of chattel slavery in America was constructed and formalized and enforced by European colonial authorities. And that wasn't incidental, it was strategically engineered. So you don't get to erase who built the system and then turn around and take credit for ending it. So no, Black people did not invent slavery. But you know what Black people did invent though? The technologies that led to the Wi-Fi you abused to come on here and stand 10 toes down on and miseducate people with. Lastly, I saw your comments and this whole no one is educating me, everyone's just being mean narrative. People are correcting you. You're just not engaging with the corrections. Instead, you're deflecting and defending the original take. This isn't about people being unapproachable. It's about you speaking confidently on a topic that requires more depth than a few surface level facts. If you actually want the conversation, then start with the full history and stop trying to shape it to fit the narrative that you want to push. Because the audacity to speak this confidently and this dismissively on a topic like this, while being incomplete in your understanding, is exactly why people are correcting you.
As an American, there are some things that you can truly never fully understand until you leave the United States. I moved out of the United States 2.5 years ago, and since then, there have been moments where certain things happen that completely and utterly break everything that I've ever known. And today, one of those things happened. I'm currently living in Germany, and very recently I just got a part-time barista job. It's completely a part-time thing and just something for me to make some extra cash on the side. And I literally cannot even work more than 20 hours a week per my resident permit. And I haven't even started working yet, but there are some things about this job that have already broken me in a good way. As I'm in talks with the boss trying to get this job, I'm expecting like, okay, we'll do like an interview or something and they can see if they like me or not. And the boss emails me about like, they don't do like an interview, they do like a tryout day, and they're telling me like come in for the tryout day and see if you like it and if you fit in with the environment well. And when I went in for the tryout day and like all went really well and stuff, the boss asked me at the end, so like if you feel good about this job, like if you like it, if it suits you well and you think you might want to stay here, then just like write me an email and let me know by like Tuesday or whatever. And they're not saying anything about like whether they even like me or not. Like all the focus seems to be on whether like I like the job and I want to stay there. Like I ended up having to ask like, well, do you like me? Like my German isn't so good, so like is it okay or is it like a problem? Like how do you feel like I fit in with the environment? And only then did I hear from the boss like that, yeah, they liked me too. And then as we're going through the hiring process, like the first thing that they tell me is like, okay, the paperwork should be ready to sign in like 2 weeks. First things first, I need a little bit of information from you. And the first thing she asked me was, when do you want to take your vacation days this year? Literally the first thing that they asked me. Guess how many vacation days I get for a part-time 20-hour-a-week barista job? I am allotted 36 vacation days, or 6 weeks in a 6-day work week schedule. 6 weeks. But the thing that broke me today was an email from my boss telling me that not only is it possible for me to go on the public healthcare system, but it's literally required for me to. For context, this has never been possible for me before, and since I turned 25 and moved outside of the United States, I've only been able to have essentially travel insurance. And now through the German public healthcare system, I can pay into it and then see pretty much any doctor that I want to, as long as they have an available appointment for free or pretty much free. And the amount that you pay into it is like 100 euros a month. I haven't been to a dentist in like 10 years, and I know that partially that's definitely my fault, but I literally through like the public health insurance, it's like required for you to go like twice a year. I was like kind of freaking out when I first got the email, and I was like texting my German friends so that they could like help me understand better, and because like I translated it, but I was like, I don't want this to be like a false translation or something and me get my hopes up for no reason. And they were like, congratulations, like, but I was like really overwhelmed by it, and they were like, I don't understand what the big deal is. Like, yeah, of course, anyone in Germany who makes more than like 600 euros a month, they automatically can go on the public health insurance. And they're asking me like, what, you didn't know that? And I'm like, no, I didn't. Like, why would I have even expected that or thought to research something like that? We don't even have a public healthcare system like this. And a 20-hour-a-week barista gig would never give you social safety nets from. Why would I have ever thought to look something like that up? I'm used to a part-time job giving you nothing. I'm used to public healthcare not even really existing. I'm used to things being impossibly expensive. I'm used to things being intentionally made to be as difficult as possible to deter people from obtaining them. I'm used to things being unforgiving and uncaring and unhuman. Like, I can't believe how easy it was for me to obtain the essential care that every human being needs and deserves just by serving a little bit of coffee. Like, of course you can read and research about other countries like as much as possible, but there's some things that you don't fully understand until you leave the United States. I'm so angry and full of grief that our government and our society and media and whoever else has convinced us that the way that we live is normal.
Okay, I'm gonna say this because it's true, but I'm not saying it because I'm racist. I'm talking about with my sister-in-law how white people do not move over for you. I go to a PWI. I have stopped moving over for white people. I have bumped into so many white people. They take up the whole sidewalk. They walk in groups. When you're sitting down and you have like your leg crossed, they want you to move their leg. I have this girl in my comparative government class. I sit down with my leg crossed and she just stands there. And I'm like, I literally stopped moving for her. I stopped moving for her because you can't say excuse me. You can't form those words out of your mouth. You have no home training, none at all, and it pisses me off. But anyways, that's my rant for today. Have a lovely day, guys.
Now you see exactly why black people sat at home this whole fucking time, because it was supposed to be us. You thought it was going to be us. And we said no. It was supposed to be us with the knees on our backs. It was supposed to be us with the bullets in our chest. It was supposed to be us getting dragged away, which is why the Trump administration was so antagonistic of black people to begin with. When they figured out that we weren't going to show up, that we weren't going to take the bait, they still had to figure out a way to put the fear of God in people. And you didn't think that it would be you. You thought that they would find someone else. You thought that you would be able to sit back and just say, oh my God, that's so terrible. Why would they treat people like that? And be able to live above it, but it's you. Tyranny always comes for you at some point. And it's here. Another person, another white man, another apparently straight white man with a good career serving his community is dead at the hands of ICE. Bullets in his chest for standing up to the American government. It wasn't supposed to be you, was it? It wasn't supposed to be you. You didn't think the leopards would eat your face, but this was the plan all along. The only wrinkle to the plan is that they thought that they would use black bodies like they always did. Through slavery, through Jim Crow, through the black codes, through the civil rights movement, they thought that they would be able to establish their power, that they're this new world order, that the secret police are legitimate, by showing you what they were willing to do and capable of doing to black bodies. But black bodies didn't show up. And now they're using you. Now they're saying it's illegal to go into your house without a judicial warrant. That's what they're doing. And I'm going to tell you something, we ain't showing up. We still not doing it. What's happening here is not right. But no longer will black people put themselves on the front lines for people who are willful in making sure that we're cannon fodder when the rubber meets the road. Rest in peace to that man, Jeffrey, man. You didn't deserve that. You were just trying to defend somebody. And I'm sorry that it's you. I'm so sorry that it's you. But they didn't think that it would be y'all. And here we are.
Hello brothers and sisters, welcome back to the channel. I'm hoping that you are doing great from wherever you're watching this video from. Again, I'm your host and presenter H-Tech Stories. Now, agree or do not disagree. There are truths. On the other hand, there is an extent of truth that these white folks doesn't want black people to have. We will all agree to that. Because black history shows black excellence, shows black inventions, some things that they scrapped away from black people. And when we now talk about the history of enslavement of black people, which is a special type of history, enslavement of black people, it is something to be talked about. Why is it important for the kids to learn that? Because it prepares them, it nurtures them to learn the society that they are living in. And to stop having the illusion that racism is something that ended long time ago. Understand that racism still exists and it knocks on the doors of every black person every single time. So this is something that happens. And it has been happening for the longest time. So when we say that racism exists and black kids should learn racism, I think it's true. Now, there were statistics that came out When you get to look at black households and white households, you also get to learn that black households, the kids are so sensitized about race and race relations and the importance of knowing that you're a black person and all the importance that comes with that. You are all sensitized about that. You are all led to be known about that because it is important for you to know. This is not the same with white kids. That's why they are not sensitive to other people who don't look like them. Some even comes from families or some even comes from households that talks negatively about other races. And so when they go to school, they are just a part of what they are always hearing inside the house. Feel me? They are a part of that. They become part and parcel of that. What they've been hearing in their houses. What they've been hearing their parents saying. Back to the main idea. Trump / white supremacy. Because when you talk about Trump, we symbolically refer to white supremacy. Trump really fears black history, black excellence, black knowledge, black awakening. You can name it all. That's why he was burning down black libraries that teaches black history. They were trying to even scrap the curriculum of black history because they were referring to that as spreading propaganda. So you might ask yourself this question: where and how is this spreading propaganda? When they all want to do is just say the truth, or when they all want to know is just saying the truth. And that's what black people have been saying, and that's what black people have been doing for the longest time. So, black people spoke, and I want to get you through it. Somebody said that it meant it drives a Cherokee. Oh, we have the Grand Cherokee, the Jeep Grand Cherokee. So probably was referring to a car. That's hilarious. That's crazy. Somebody said that equality is oppression to white people. Very many times I say this. There is nothing like fair ground for whites and blacks. It has been according to the way that white people want it. And it's not according to the way that black people want it. And that's why when black people try to teach their history, it's now being termed as a propaganda. It's now being termed as something that should not be taught, something so much sensitive to kids. While these are people that are educating their community, right? These are just a group of people that are educating their community. They are not interfering with nobody. They are not doing anything to nobody. They're just sensitizing. They're just orienting. They're just educating their kids on the things that they should know. Because we all know that the United States, it's really a crazy place. Somebody said that any white person that claims a Cherokee, their ancestors paid $5 to become part of that tribe. Well, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know. Because one thing that I doubt, as a matter of fact, is that a white person claiming that he is a Cherokee, that their family was also enslaved. He should be embarrassed to say he's Cherokee Native American, because one thing about red and black, if at first sight you don't see the traits, you are not that. Yep. She pissed off the black Americans and they chose to become servants or sold someone something. Sounds like whitewashing to me. Did he kill, rape, skin, feed to alligators? No, they didn't. She knows so much about that one black man, but nothing about all white people with slaves. Loud and wrong as usual. Black people already here. White people wasn't smart enough to figure out navigation. So stop the cap. Stop the cap. Black Americans, were already in the United States because they had the navigation technology. They know how to use the water technology to move from ocean to ocean and to get into the United States fast before even this brother of yours that claims that he was the first person that stepped into the United States, Columbus. Yeah. Some white people like to mention that they are partial American indigenous people, but didn't the US government pay them to become American Indian people? What does it mean to be a $5 Indian? I guess if you bought the identity, it's yours then. Wow, just wow. Correlation to what the other guy said. Some of these white folks that are claiming that they're Cherokee, they paid for it to claim that. True slavery has existed for some time. For many different reasons, American slavery was unusually cruel, inhuman, and savage. Slaves were considered as subhuman and treated worse than animals during slavery and post-slavery until this day. This is why immigration was so big to them, because Black Americans were fighting for better jobs because they knew how they can do their work without these restrictions. So it's not that Black people were lazy and they didn't want to work, they just didn't want to keep being treated like slaves. So brothers and sisters, please let me know what you think and feel about this video. As you know, I'm your host and presenter Ejidok Stories. Until then, let me see you in my next video. Peace, love, and harmony. Salute.